This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Transformation with Tara Sutphen. Tara Sutphen is the author of Blame It on Your Past Lives and Soul Agreements. 3 audio CD series, metaphysical meditations, sourcing series, and sleep programming. Tara has also collaborated with Emmy Award-winning Shane Stanley and Marla Maples on numerous DVDs. Tara Sutphen is a master in the psychic sciences. If you'd like to find out more about Tara's work, upcoming seminars, and meditations to help you fulfill your dreams, visit her website at tarasutphen.com.
Good morning and welcome to Transformations with Tara Sutphen. I am Jason McKean, the Reverend Wizard, in subbing for Tara today. She's out having an amazing journey somewhere out in the world, and she'll be back next week. But for today, I am your host, and my website out in the world. For anyone who wants to see what a Reverend Wizard does in the world, my website is Jason D. McKean. That's JasonDMckean.com. And the Reverend Wizard does tarot. He reads tarot out in the Los Angeles area, and that's where I am located, but I take, calls from all over the world. And I teach tarot as well. And also I have Om chant CDs that are played throughout the world, in yoga studios, in meditation halls, birthing centers, hospices, just out there, in many places of the world, providing a background for people to experience their own spiritual journey as they go through meditation or, some kind of discipline, some practice, some spiritual practice of their own. So check it out, jasondmckean.com. Today I have a wonderful guest, Kaitlin Robinson. And Kaitlin has a master's in clinical psychology, specializing in marriage and family therapy, and she calls herself a light coach. Kaitlin Robinson, welcome to Transformations.
Good morning, Jason. How are you? Thank you.
Doing really great. And as promised, my very first question to you, what exactly is a light coach?
I love that question. A light coach is what I call myself. I look at myself as somebody who sheds light on your dark, shadowy spots. So as we illuminate old wounds and old traumas, we can heal them as we bring them to the surface.
Wonderful. I before the show, I always pull a tarot card, just from the deck, right? It's just a blind pull, right? And the card that came up was the sun.
Perfect.
And
That's
the
one of my
sun,
favorite cards.
it's one of the most beautiful cards in the deck, right? But it is about letting that light come in and show the truth of things, right?
Yes.
It's an amazing card.
Transformation.
Yeah, and when one is able to see the truth in their own life, then they can build upon that truth and make any necessary changes that they need to make. Is that how you see your role in the light coach?
Absolutely. And I have followed spiritual light leader Marianne Williamson for years, since I was a child. And she has this great saying that she's pulled from the Course in Miracles, where a shift in perception is a miracle. And it's when you can shine light on your dark, shadowy spots. You have an opportunity to shift your perspective about where your life has been, what has happened in the past, and all of the luggage that you carry with you. So you have a chance to unpack everything and look at it and shift your perspective of how you want to have a relationship with that information. And that, I also agree, is a miracle.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place to find yourself, right? As far as like, being that facilitator of being of service, right? Of helping people to open up the in a lot of cases, it's these trunks, right? That we're carrying around with us of our own stuff, our own baggage, right? And being able to sort through it and to release the items that no longer serve us, right?
That weigh you down, really, they do. This is an exercise that I use with my clients as a visualization technique, and I have them imagine closing their eyes and looking behind them and imagining these massive steamer trunks, like the old ones we would carry if we were going to embark on the Titanic. And each year that you've been on this planet, imagine that you've got a steamer trunk for that year. And I have them go back, starting either in early childhood or, in the more recent past, and I have them unpack that year. So, sometimes they go back to 13 and their parents are divorcing. What were the friends that were surrounding them at the time? What were the foods they hated? What were they wearing? What was the music they were listening to? What were the teachers that were impacting them? If you're in your teens and your early childhood years, those are really formative years that can have heavy steamer trunks behind you, and you just kind of shove them away into the dark recesses of your mind, ignoring them. But when you unpack them, almost in a way like month by month, if you can, sometimes you can't think of everything that's happened in your life, but it really helps you take inventory, essentially, of your life, and then take responsibility for the emotions that you had in those times.
Right. And to be able to draw strength from experiences, especially like you had mentioned, if someone's getting divorced, parents are getting divorced when you're young, right? It's like, knowing that these experiences are profound, right? But if what doesn't like just destroy you, you can like draw strength from it, right? And know that, one, that you can be resilient and move on from things in life.
That's the exact word I was thinking of, is you're building resiliency. So thank you for touching on that, Jason. Yeah, and then when you can look back as an adult and say, wow, actually, I did survive that. Look at how far I've come.
Yeah.
You can really celebrate and go, you know what, actually, this has been really powerful and helpful for my journey. And I could honor that and own it and tuck it in my back pocket as like a badge, rather than still swimming in the reactive feelings that are subconsciously driving you from way back when.
Yeah, I think that's an aspect of the sun card too, where, because it's a card of joy, of being able to know the truth and be one with it, right? Where your joy is connected to that truth. It's not about, having to live in a fantasy world to make you happy. It's about being in a world where it is real, right? And also you're happy. So it's like an amazing state to be in, and the more that we can work towards that in our own life and helping others come to their own truth about themselves and their own accessing of their joy center, right, where they emanate from it, then it's like it's a beautiful thing.
I couldn't imagine a life where I wasn't able to be a conduit for that type of shift and that type of transformation. And my first career, I was in international commercial real estate. And while you're helping people and you're making the world turn by keeping the economy going and giving people a place to operate their business, I had my soul sucked out of my body. I felt like I was dead inside. I was not on purpose. I was not living my authentic truth. And I was making the most money I've ever made in my life. You think that money would equate success and happiness, but I learned, after several years of doing that in fact it was the exact opposite. And I took the leap to jump into this field of psychology. And although my degree is in clinical psychology, where I have the ability to diagnose and whatnot, I don't particularly like to do that and pigeonhole personality. So I like to work on this level of transformation and actualization for people. And I can't think of a more rewarding gift to be given from the universe to be able to do this and practice this daily and help people grow.
Do you feel that, like, as when you incorporate like one's spiritual goals, right, into the psychology, like the therapy part of it, like the clinical aspects of it, if you add that layer of the spiritual, that it's a more holistic approach for integrating, one's whole being.
Absolutely. And, sometimes I have clients that sit in front of me that they're kind of like, what's spirituality? I don't understand. They might not even know that they have spiritual goals. And they don't have this broad perspective of what life ultimately can be and the gifts that the universe can give them. So it's a really fun birthing process to take those baby steps with them and, slowly introducing like Buddhist mindfulness, for instance, of just being what I call a thought watcher, bringing awareness to the thoughts that we have and recognizing that you can harness them and control them. And then from there, you get to harness and control your emotions and your reactivity. And from there, you control your belief system. And then from there, you get to control your behaviors and what you project out into the world. And then ultimately, what you project out into the world is going to be reflected back to you because everybody around you is a mirror for who you are and an opportunity for growth. So you take them on this journey from their thoughts to their emotions, then their belief system, and then their behaviors, and you rewire them. But you start from a more fundamental level of like, let's just watch your thoughts. Like, how much do you bully yourself every day? How much do you beat yourself up? How are your limiting beliefs driving your everyday emotions and experiences? And then you start slowly, and then you build off of that. And you see all these little ahas, like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that I torture myself by comparing myself to other people, by thinking that I can never be successful enough or healthy enough or smart enough or beautiful enough, whatever that enough is.
Yes.
And you get to watch the little journey. So going back to what you said, not everybody knows that they have spiritual goals.
Right. So part of what you're helping them to become more aware of is that, because how I see spirituality is something that is kind of at our deepest core, right? And it taps into why it is that we're here on the planet, right? As an individual being. And the people that I come into contact with as a tarot reader, it's like some people are very aware of why they're here on the planet, and they may not know exactly how to make it the most effective approach towards it, or how to work it out there in the world, but they're very aware of their own plan, right? And then some others are not at all. And it's for me, it's very telling as far as just how we're all just kind of wired pretty differently in ways. So we can't really judge everyone kind of by the same standards, in that, we are all on kind of a different place in our journey there along the way there.
Well, it's really the first time in history where we've given the opportunity to look inward rather than out into the world. I mean, this is really the first time where we're given permission to go inside. Who are we at the core? Like you said, who is our true authentic self? And you go back into the dark ages and you go back thousands of years, everything was external. How do we survive as a species? How do we, conquer the lands out in front of us and ride through new territories? Well, now the new territories and the new frontier is what's inside. And of course, we're not all on the same path and the same journey with the same level of expertise. And I think if you look in childhood, what were you given permission to explore? and for instance, in my childhood, my parents separated and divorced when I was an infant. So I had two very different upbringings in two different homes where my father was extremely religious and we spent the majority of my childhood church shopping. And my mother
wait. What's church shopping?
Every few Sundays, we would go to a new church and try on a new denomination and see if we could find our church home, as my father would call it. And you would listen to different ministers and pastors, different messages. You would see what the church community was like, if it resonated with you. And to me, this was torture. This was hell on earth for me as a teenager. And none of the messages ever resonated with me. And then my mother, she studied every religion under the sun and harnessed meditation and different modalities of bringing in universal information.
Yeah.
And so I was given permission to go inward and to ask bigger questions when I was under my mother's wings. And not a lot of children have that opportunity. So you might find that now in this day and age, as we are, as a society giving permission to look inward and do that deep exploration of who the authentic self is, it helps when you're supported as a child to say, sure, ask the big questions. And, don't turn against the God that I'm telling you have to believe in, which is what my father imposed. I was taught you're never supposed to question.
Right.
It just is. The Bible is the only way, and that's just what you're supposed to believe. Well, that didn't resonate. So I've been on a lifelong quest to understand the bigger picture and the deeper, true, authentic self. So that's been my journey. But I know that not everybody has that ability or the permission, like I said, to do that work. Sometimes it happens later in life, or sometimes not at all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
you're right. You can't place the judgments or the expectations on people because we're all on our own journey, our own path.
I found that for myself, as far as like working with people and opening themselves up to their spirituality and all that came later in life for me as I was becoming more comfortable with that aspect for myself. Right.
You weren't always a wizard?
Well, oh boy, now I've boxed myself in. In other ways, right? Like I've always been of the mindset that I can pretty much do what it is that I can in the world, right? It's like if I gave myself permission to create musical albums when I was younger, without looking for people to validate me, right? To do anything that where it was about I need to have someone back me, I need to find a producer, I need to find whatever, it's just like I would find myself in situations where it was like, oh, okay, I have these resources at my fingertips, and therefore I am going to create and express myself out into the world, right?
It's very brave.
It is like where you take on a mindset of this is what I'm here to do, and it may not be perfect, but one needs to start somewhere. One needs to kind of get the ball rolling and not wait for someone else to say, hey, I'm going to back you, I'm going to do whatever, right? It's just you give yourself that permission, and I've always been that person inside. It's like I don't wait around, and I just go with what it is that I feel the direction I need to go for. I will say that as far as becoming a tarot reader and a wizard in that way, that my sister Tara, who this is her show, Tara Sutphen Transformations, and yes, she is my sister, my big sister. Thank you, Tara. She was instrumental in opening up that doorway of for me becoming a tarot reader and seeing my potential there. Because I've always been a student of the mind without being committed enough to do what you've done, which is to go to colleges and study in a very clinical way. I mean that takes discipline in and of itself. But tarot readers they have a kind of this freedom of they say on the websites and all that it's like for entertainment purposes only. But we see as many people as you do that have some very deep issues, right? That need to be brought to the surface, that we need to shed light on, and to be able to move forward on in very positive ways, that show the person's responsibility to their own life, right? So it's about empowering people as well in that field, and it's just kind of done in a different way. It's like some people just like that magical approach that the cards can bring up.
I've studied many modalities, from ancient Chinese I Ching to I'm not as proficient in tarot, but I'm familiar with a myriad of different modalities, and I've pulled in different ones, from sound therapy to resonance repatterning to EFT. And it's not a one size fits all. There are many ways to tap into universal truths and information to create transformation.
That's right.
And I think that it's beautiful. And that's one of the things I felt limiting when I was growing up church shopping, was that I felt it was too stifling. It wasn't broad enough for me to get information. And for some people it works beautifully, and I don't knock that, but I didn't find that it resonated with me. So I love that there are many options and for people to choose different ways of healing through different modalities.
Yeah, I feel that our experience in life, that we are co-creators of
Mm-hmm.
our life. It's like we're not responsible for everything, right? As far as we have the capacity to have the awareness of our own journey, and to move forward in the ways that we can for ourselves. And if you think about it in terms of like, of us like being responsible for beating our own heart, and like just the way our consciousness focuses on things. It's like there's stuff that our mind is well suited to, and stuff that it's not. And I think that if we try to do like too much control, too much in our life, then we lose a perspective, right, of our own spirituality, and of how things can just unfold, right?
Well, I think that's when you're living in your ego too. Is if you think you get to control all of this.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it's a massive amount of responsibility, but then you're living in a more egocentric way of being. There's an amazing TED Talk by one of my favorite authors, Elizabeth Gilbert, and she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, amongst various other books. And her TED Talk is about creativity, and creativity being the entity that lives in the walls that helps you, create whatever it is your gift is that you bring to the planet. And she articulates it so beautifully when she says, if it were just up to us, we would probably be all alcoholics, because we would drive ourselves into madness.
Mm-hmm,
but there's something really beautiful about relinquishing that, we don't have to stand around beating our own hearts, because we're here to do whatever our job is. And whatever that higher power is, whatever you want to call that source, universe, God, they get to take a big chunk of the responsibility. We just get to show up and say, here, use me, whatever it is that you want me to accomplish for you in your essence. Here I am. And that's our job, not to stand here saying, okay, I got to beat my heart again and again and again.
Yeah. With the aspect, you just did a radio show yesterday. What was that about?
It was a great show. I had so much fun doing it. It was for latalkradio.com.
Mm-hmm.
It's an internet radio show, and the actual show was called LA 40. And I co-hosted it with two beautiful, amazing women, and one also being a spiritual psychologist. And the topic of the day was blasting out limiting beliefs, and primarily as it pertains to being in midlife, because the show was LA 40. So anybody who's in their 40s and their 50s who have limiting beliefs around making changes in career, accepting their beauty and their health, or what they perceive as lack thereof. And we went through various examples, both personal and stuff that we've dealt with clients, on how damaging limiting beliefs can be. And I gave you the example of having this limiting belief of just being fearful of water. This is a little one. And then there's big ones of I'm fearful to change my career, which I recently just did as well. And so the one with water was, I have this fear of water at night. It's irrational. I feel like Jaws is going to come through the drain in the swimming pool if the lights are off. And same with the ocean, because there are sharks in the ocean. And a friend of mine asked me to go stand up paddleboarding under the supermoon that we had a couple of weeks ago. This gorgeous full moon. It's the closest it's been since like 1943, I think. Yeah. And immediately my first thought was, heck no, I'm not going out there at night in the water with the sharks. And then when he invited me, I said, you know what? I really don't want to go. However, I have to. So I will see you there because I have to get through whatever this fear is. Right. And so stepping into this limiting belief of I'm incapable of stepping through my fear was silly. So I forced myself to step into the fear and had a miraculous experience. I don't want to say it was life-changing, but it was definitely soul-shifting. And then more recently, I took the leap of completely exiting my career and as well as my marriage, two things that were limiting me considerably. And there were a lot of limiting beliefs around that. As well, if I switch my career, as I'm going to lose all this great money that I'm making and my security and my stability and all the accolades that I get from this amazing work I do. Yeah. But it wasn't in alignment with my true self. So I had to push through my limiting beliefs of, what it is to be a stereotypical starving student. Well, why do I have to be starving to be a student? I had to expel my limiting beliefs around money and being a new entrepreneur. And so there was a lot of challenges that way. So in the radio show, we just discussed how do you get through limiting beliefs, and we shared various tools to help you help facilitate that transformation.
Right. And it's like the work that you do, right? You're facilitating the space for your clients to be able to do the same exact things, to access that part of themselves, right? That's kind of in contradiction, with their the limitations that they hold for themselves are in conflict with, where it is that they want to go for themselves, their success that they can see for themselves, but they're just, well, if only, right? If only I could get past this or get past that, then they could, break through to their own, their place of success that they see for themselves. And so you're like setting that example, it's like you're the one who if you're holding back, then it's like it's kind of a weird place to be able to say, no, you can do it, and then to go home and say, you know what, I can't do that because, if I go swimming at night, a shark is going to get me. Right. Right.
Oh, I'd be a hypocrite and a fraud. And that's not me standing in my authentic truth. And I have this joke that I say, I have a little gremlin in the sky, or an angel, whatever you want to call it, that assigns me clients. They just appear, and it's every single case I have ever had, and I've had hundreds and hundreds, from working with a 4.5-year-old all the way to, somebody who's in their 60s. Yeah. And ironically, I will have just experienced what they're bringing to the table. So I'm now in a position to teach it. Or I've experienced it earlier in my life, so that I can say, well, this is what worked, this is what didn't work. Here, let me hold up the mirror. But without a doubt, always, on cue, I get the clients where I am able to be the teacher, and I find that to be a beautiful coincidence, although I don't really believe in coincidences. I believe it to just be a beautifully divine alignment. Otherwise, you're right. If I were just saying, here, try this on for size, although I've never done it, I think it would be wildly irresponsible on my behalf as a human.
Right. Yeah, and it's in those areas that matter most to us, or the areas that we fear the most. Like for me, I had like a huge fear of public speaking for a very long time. And, so I was being a wizard in kind of the background, scene there, being an artist and a musician and all these are places that you can hide in a laboratory, right? And not
It's
have
like the Wizard
to
of
face
Oz.
anyone.
He hides behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz.
Oh
And
my
he has
God.
a big booming
You're
voice
right.
commanding. But he's just, a guy behind the curtain.
Yeah. And so, the curtain gets pulled away, and then it's like, okay, who are you out in the world? And how can you give voice to what it is that, you've experienced, that, you can be of help to someone else, right? For them to step out behind the curtain and start to live, right? Start to interact. And
I think this is a perfect example of limiting beliefs, because I would argue that the person behind the curtain is just as magnanimous as the person that is, commanding that big booming voice that everybody hears but doesn't see where it's coming from. I would say that is absolutely the same powerful being. What the limiting belief is, though, is that I can't be that big, powerful, booming voice. It's an illusion, but it's not. They're all one and the same. It's just a limiting belief, that system that you've created in your mind for whatever reason that prevents you from going out into the world and behaving in a certain way that matches your original thoughts of, I can do this, I'm fantastic, I have this great message. I mentioned that earlier. It all starts with your thoughts, and then it goes into your emotions, and then your belief system, and then your behavior. So it's all one and the same.
Along with doing the radio show, Kaitlin, you do a weekly YouTube channel show.
Yes,
What's that about?
My weekly YouTube channel can be found on YouTube, obviously, and it's under Ask Kaitlin. And I've created this show that I do weekly every Sunday.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait a sec. How does one spell Kaitlin? Because I know from the past, you could have a coffee table book filled with various Starbucks cups with the misspellings of your name, Kaitlin. It's one of those names where it's like anyone's guess, right? And I know you used to like catalog and show like when a barista would just be completely off, with your name, and I think you have quite the collection, right?
I do.
Photos.
I have upwards, I think, of 80 cups that I have photographed, and I'm also a photographer, so I've edited all of the photos to look their uniform. I think 85 of them are spelled incorrectly. I think 4 of them are spelled correctly. In fact, the cup that I have right now, they didn't, Kait. Yeah, they didn't even bother to put the second half of my name on the cup.
It's just K-River.
So thank you for asking that. Kaitlin is spelled Kaitlin. As my mother says, she knew I would be tall, as my father was 6'7", so she wanted all the letters to go up and down. So there's no C's or Y's.
Yeah, you're what, six what?
I'm 5'11", almost 6 foot.
Oh, come on, just say 6 feet. You're 6 feet.
Oh, okay, 6 feet. In heels, I'm 6'4", so there you go. So every Sunday I do this great little show called Soul Stretch Sunday, and I incorporate psycho-spiritual advice. And there's short little clips. They're 2 to 3.5 minutes long. And either I pull in examples from my own life, which I am finding more comfortable to be vulnerable in front of my audience, which is a beautiful transformational process even for myself, and a connector for my audience. And then I also have questions that my clients bring to me, and almost all of the time they're universal. They're questions that are, we all experience doubts and fears, and, how do I do this? How do I get through this? How do I dispel my jealousy with my partner? How do I overcome my own personal fears? They're topics that are universal that everybody can relate to at various points in their life.
Yes.
So, you can tune in every Sunday and check out my psycho-spiritual tips on how to grow, become more healthy and whole and actualized.
And you have like an archive there of past
Yes.
bursts there, talks of answering either the questions or addressing some kind of universal type dilemma or situation
Absolutely.
that you talk about.
And I post them on my Twitter account, and I post them on Facebook and Twitter. It's Ask Miss MS Kaitlin, and everything else, every other social media platform is just Ask Kaitlin. So I post across all platforms every week, so you can't miss me. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook. I have to learn Snapchat, so if there are any listeners out there who want to give me a Snapchat tutorial, I'm happy to take your advice on that one.
It's all about connecting with others, right? And some people, they don't do the Facebook so much, but they'll do Instagram. They'll do Twitter, and so it's about having a presence on all of the various social medias. It's like I had recently on my website, under the contact section, I listed all of my social media aliases, and it's just like, oh my God, there's like 10 different platforms where one can contact me or follow and be a part of it. Do you do Periscope at all?
I don't. I'm familiar with it, and that's another one that I would like to tap into as well. Do you use Periscope?
Yeah. I with other readers at the Green Man store where I work out of in North Hollywood, mostly with Tracy, a psychic there. We do usually ends up being about a half hour long there of where we'll do a pop culture question there about some celebrity or whatever, but we'll also talk about spiritual aspects as well. Plus, it's very interactive. Someone can ask a question. They can type in a question, and you can go off on that for a while. So it's very interactive, and people can send hearts and all. It's really nice when people send hearts. And that type of platform is very it's just so now, right? As far as in the past, it was just your being able to connect with a therapist or someone who puts themselves out there as a facilitator of just looking at your situation there. It was either where you'd have to have an appointment with them or call a radio talk show or something like that. But it's just so like book. Yeah, and it's so accessible, to tap into someone who is just kind of right there at just on your cell phone. It's pretty amazing.
Oh, it is. All of my clients right now are in other cities, or they're in our city, but it takes 2 hours in traffic to get anywhere in LA. Or they're in different states or different countries. With the dawn of this digital media age, it's much different than walking down the street to a brick and mortar actual place, or opening up your phone book. If we're going back into the 80s and the 90s to thumb through and find somebody who specializes in what we do. It's a miraculous time that we live in to share information.
Right, but people can also tap into your energy, right? Kind of like what you're about. When you have a presence on YouTube and all, it's like, I think that, I find for myself, right, as a reader, that the energy that you rest in, right, as a reader or as a therapist, that is the space in which someone else will be able to find their answers, right? If you're kind of a calm presence, right, it's almost like it's a permission for them to explore their own situation without judgment, without being pressured, right, to come up with just something, right? And I think that they can kind of sample that, right, from YouTube, from any radio shows that you do or so.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, you also work with teens, right?
I do. Oh, that's where my heart just blasts open. Every week I work with 2 different groups in the evenings on Wednesdays and Thursdays doing a guided visualization and meditation group.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll do one-on-one sessions with them afterwards if need be. But I've worked with teens for the last, about 4 or 5 years. And it's just, they're so malleable and they're so open, and they don't have as many steamer trunks trailing behind them as adults do. Although I also love working with adults, so don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There's something really magical about the underlying innocence. Teenagers, they throw on this cloak of toughness and I know everything and I'm invincible, and they're not.
Right.
They're just so open, and when they have their ahas, they're having their first ahas in their life. They're not, they haven't had all these years behind them to discover and do self-evaluation like adults do. But when they have their ahas, you just see and feel this massive energy shift. And you see their hearts blast open, and then they get hungry. They get more and more curious about, oh my gosh, how can I continue to grow? What is my purpose? Why am I here? These are questions that they've never been given permission to ask because they live in little bubbles, and their world is their family and, potentially a small school that they go to.
Right.
So I've worked in rehab facilities and I've worked in schools in helping teens become more actualized and whole. In fact, I had a client call 2 nights ago. He was on the East Coast. I worked with him a year ago, and he came in. He was suicidal. He had attempted suicide. He had a horrible relationship with his parents, quick to anger, always getting bullied and always bullying. And he just said, I want to thank you. Here it is a year later, and I was triggered tonight. And a year ago, this is how I would have handled it. I would have been in the streets with a baseball bat practically. And he said, I stopped. I did the techniques that you taught me. I found my voice. I was able to communicate my needs. And I am flying high. Thank you so much. And to get those moments of confirmation, years later, it's just, the impact that you can have on these little psyches is just so profound, and why I do what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, that's incredible. I mean, that is really beautiful. And, again, it's like you have a calling, right, to put yourself into their space, like initially, right, to help them work through their own ways of how they express, how they convert their anger, right? Is it into something that is self-destructive, or can it be converted into communication, right? Where one talks about what they're feeling so that they can work through it. They can get to the other side of it, and not to have it come out as a some act of violence.
Right, and it could even be an act of violence against themselves. I deal with cutters and people are dealing with eating disorders and suicidality and homicidality a lot. And rather than turning that anger inward, transforming it and having it be an alchemical moment where they can transform it into something positive and more beautiful. And even these situations with my teens, as much as I get to be the mirror for them to create transformation in their lives, they are my most powerful teachers. There's never a client that I have worked with where I go, oh wow, you didn't teach me anything. No, they teach me compassion and kindness, and they continue to help me grow and expand my awareness. So it's really cool working with kids.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I was just laughing at that moment, because it's like, just trying to imagine that, anyone that you've seen, that you've worked with is just, it was a total waste of my time. It's that just doesn't happen. When you are open to that spiritual journey, right? It's like everyone that comes in, they all have a gift. Everyone has a gift, and I feel that is like at the heart of spirit, right? Is that connection that we have with each other, and knowing that we can affect one another, and we can be a positive influence, or we can be a negative influence. I mean, that's part of our responsibility, to our journey is how it is that we project ourselves in the world. And I think that again, everyone that you come in contact with at all levels is they have something to add.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in everybody comes into your life for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're the teacher, they're the teacher, you're there to help them grow, or they're there to help you grow. And there's always powerful lessons in every relationship. And I've had them even with, my simple interactions with the checkout girl at the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And, or, my Starbucks baristas who consistently spell my name incorrectly. There's always beautiful lessons in meeting new people, even if it's for a 5-minute relationship or it's a 50-year relationship.
Yeah. I
beautiful dance.
What's that?
I said it's a beautiful dance we get to do, as souls, while we reside in these skin suits that we wear.
Where do you see yourself, like, moving towards? As far as I always feel that in this line of work, there's the potential for the expansion of one in like the electronic version of ourself, the one that goes out through the media, through the digital airwaves, right? Because it's like replicating yourself, right? So that you can touch more lives, be of more influence there, along with the one-on-one. I feel that the one-on-one is a very grounding, that's probably the most profound, is when you're in a room with someone and you're like, doing the work. But the electronic aspect, right? The amplification of oneself out into the world, that can be just as valid. Do you see yourself doing more and more of that kind of work to kind of spread the word?
My first year of grad school, I think I wasn't even halfway through. It was probably my second quarter. I just was hit with this reality of I have to share this information with the world. I can't see myself sitting behind a desk 9 to 5, seeing clients. And don't get me wrong, I think that is the petri dish. That is the learning ground. That is the playground where I would continue to hone in on my skills and really impact. I do love doing one-on-ones, but I think that my true calling, let me rephrase that. I know that my true calling is to reach more on a macro level. And I'm in the process of penning my first book. And I, like I said, I started my Ask Kaitlin TV show where I do Soul Stretch Sundays so that I can help on a more global level. And my goal ultimately is to help raise the consciousness. And if it's just of one individual, my job is done. If it happens to be millions, my job is done. And so absolutely using various platforms through digital media, whether it's doing public speaking, whether it's creating my own workshops and retreats, book writing, absolutely. That is where I see my future. And that is what I will manifest in my future.
Did you say that you do have a book? No, I know that you.
It's not published. I'm sorry?
No, I was going to say, I know you're an editorial contributor to the Huffington Post. You have writings there. You write through other forms. But what's the basis of the book? What's there with the book?
Well, I'll share one. I have two actually, and one of them that I am working on is the process of breaking up through whether it's jobs or relationships and using spiritual techniques and tools to strengthen your backbone to get you to the other side.
Yeah.
That's one that's been brewing in me after I experienced a horrific breakup. several years ago on Christmas via email. And I was sent to the depths of darkness and had to pull myself out of that without resorting to the typical methods of alcohol, drugs, sex, and rock and roll. I wanted to come out healthy, whole, and alive.
Right.
So I pulled everything from Deepak Chopra to Jesus Christ to Marianne Williamson to Oprah, any thought leaders that have walked on this planet. I was swimming in their words. And I realized there's not one concise place to go get all of this information. So I started writing this book on a paper tablecloth at a restaurant in Malibu over a glass of wine. I penned all the chapters and, and started writing on this tablecloth.
Yeah.
As I know it's a universal theme of waking up and going to, experiencing the dark night of your soul to come out the other side is a really challenging process. So that's one of them. And the other one will remain a secret until I get a little bit further along. But yes, I am a contributing editor to Huffington Post and Mind Body Green and various other websites. So I've stretched my wings on the internet, but I do have a dream to be able to hold my own book and smell the pages and just put it on as an addition to my library. And we'll see that happen hopefully in the next couple of years.
Wonderful. So, again, people can contact you at Ms. or Ask Kaitlin.
AskKaitlin.com is my website.
Yeah.
Facebook is Ask Kaitlin as well, and all my contact information, phone and email is on Facebook. Again, Kaitlin spelled Kaitlin, and catch me on YouTube every Sunday, also under Ask Kaitlin.
Right. That's fantastic. It looks like we're wrapping up here. Kaitlin Robinson. Kaitlin, thank you so much for dropping by. And
thank you so much, Jason, for having me. And Tara is also in the ether. She can feel me and hear me. Thank you, Tara, for the invitation.
And all our best to you as you progress in this work. It's like it sounds like you're doing amazing work with kids, with adults. And just keep at it, and Godspeed to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jason. God bless.
All right, and that was our guest, Kaitlin Robinson. Again, on Facebook, you can reach her through Ask Kaitlin, and Kaitlin is Kaitlin, and I am Jason McKean, the Reverend Wizard. My website, jasondmckean.com. Have a beautiful day, and again, thank you, Tara, for asking me to host for you here on Transformations with Tara Sutphen. All my best.
Thank you for sharing your time with Tara Sutphen. Find out more about Tara's work, upcoming seminars, and meditations to help you fulfill your dreams by visiting her website at tarasutphen.com.